carry forfeiture specifications. This matter was referred to the Lake County Adult Probation Department for a pre-sentence investigation and report, victim impact statement, and a psychological evaluation. Those reports have been completed. The state has had the opportunity to review those reports, and the state is ready to proceed with sentencing. There are 122 days of jail time credit. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Hibbert.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, this is a low-level felony firearm case. As you are aware, that is what Mr. Steele pled to, are low-level firearm charges. He has a very limited criminal history as an adult. He does have a misdemeanor case from the Wayne County Municipal Court. I know that the state argued in their sentencing memorandum that he had failed to comply with conditions of that and things of that nature. However, they cited that he had not completed counseling. He was not ordered to do counseling. He was ordered to do a program. However, he simply had not gotten to that yet in his probation process. It was essentially inactive probation. He didn't have to report for that. He wasn't drug tested for that. He was never officially violated for that case. So he hasn't had the opportunity ever to be placed on a term of community control sanctions, and that is what we are going to be asking the court for today, is that you take note of the time that he has spent in the Lake County Jail and sentence him to a term of community control sanctions. Your Honor, there are outside factors surrounding this case that make this case seem much worse than it is. However, this case really is Mr. Steele being in possession of a firearm. I mean, really, he was in the car with 2 firearms, to be fair. But he did accept responsibility for one of those firearms being the one that he was in possession of that day. That was a stolen firearm. He doesn't dispute that he knew that that firearm was stolen. Initially, he was not aware that that firearm was a stolen firearm, but he did become aware that that firearm was a stolen firearm and that he was not supposed to be possessing it. He shouldn't have been possessing any firearm in a vehicle, though. However, he became aware that that firearm was stolen, and he intended to give that firearm back.
How did he become aware of that?
He has indicated to me that over the weekend prior to his arrest, he had used a website to search the serial number of the firearm, and he was able to determine that it was stolen. He let me know that. I was not aware that there was an ATF website that you could search serial numbers to firearms on, and maybe the detective knows the answer to that, but that is what Mr. Steele did, and he says even if we were to look in his internet history, it would corroborate that. So he did learn that that firearm was stolen.
Why would he search, why would he think to go to an ATF website to see if this firearm was stolen?
Something made him very suspicious of that firearm, Your Honor, and I think you should ask him when he goes through with his allocution. He will explain to you what prompted him to have concerns about the nature of that firearm. Your Honor, the state, so there are surrounding circumstances, though, to this case that the state is arguing that make it more serious than your ordinary firearm in a vehicle case. Primarily, they focus on the defendant previously possessed a murder weapon. That really doesn't mean that the defendant knew what was going to happen with that weapon once it was no longer in his possession. He was not part of that murder. There are no allegations that he was. He, in fact, the text messages in his cell phone do indicate that he was asking others for information about that murder. So he was not part of it. He wasn't involved in it. He simply happened to have previously possessed the firearm that then went through someone else and then ended up in the hands of someone who used it allegedly to commit a murder. And I say allegedly because none of the people charged with regard to that murder have been convicted. Nobody has pled guilty. Nobody has had a trial and been convicted by a judge or a jury. They are all presumed innocent, Your Honor. So that is the state's theory of the case, is that there was this murder that was committed by Vance Triplett and the juvenile JW and others involved in the surrounding circumstances of that homicide. However, it was not Mr. Steele who was part of that, and he was not even in the car with the
Well,
murder
I
weapon.
presume he'd be charged with that if he was part of that, right?
Right, and Your Honor, for that matter, he was initially charged with furnishing a firearm to a minor. However, that charge is going to be dismissed by the state of Ohio. He gave a lengthy interview with the police upon his arrest in this matter. To his credit, he was forthcoming with them. He talked a lot with them about the other people and the items in the car and all that. He thought he was helping himself, of course, and he thought he was helping his buddy Vance Triplett. Ultimately, he has come to realize that he tried to help someone who, for one, likely didn't deserve his help, and two, was obviously involved in murder allegations. So he has come to realize that his friendship with that individual and his desire to protect that individual have now cost him. Mr. Steele, he was working full-time prior to this offense. He has a girlfriend with whom he has a child, and he cares deeply about that child. It has bothered him greatly that he's been away from that child at such a young age. He was trying to do the right thing. He unfortunately allowed himself to be susceptible to outside influences from others that were not dedicated to doing the right thing. But again, Mr. Steele was working full-time prior to this happening. The allegation that there was a trade of firearms going on, while Mr. Steele should acknowledge today and will acknowledge today that he was responsible for much discussion with his cohorts about trading firearms and what can we get for this, and oh, maybe we can get one of those. Yes, that definitely went on, and he's not going to deny that that occurred. He did think that having firearms and being around firearms was cool. Obviously, that belief has now cost him greatly because he's been in jail as the result of being around those other people and their firearms. The firearm that Mr. Steele was in possession of was stolen, but there are no allegations that he was responsible for the theft of that firearm. And again, he is here today because he thought that having firearms and living some lifestyle was cool, but hopefully he is quickly realizing that it is not cool. Mr. Steele, if he were to be given a term of community control sanctions, would go back to work. He would try his best to comply with all conditions that you may place upon him. I do think that having a structured dedicated supervision to him by the government would help Mr. Steele try get himself on the right path and teach him the things he can and cannot do, and the things he must do if he wants to keep his freedom. I do think that he maybe needs to engage in some programming. I know with his previous probation, while he wasn't ordered to do counseling, he was ordered to ultimately do a program thinking for a change. I have heard from the adult parole authority that people do respond well to that program. He has never taken that program. He was not on probation for all that long prior to this offense, and that again was misdemeanor probation, which was essentially inactive probation. He didn't while he was in the car with these firearms that day, there's no indication that he was trying to hide evidence or knew that a search warrant was going to be executed or anything like that. It was him hanging out with his buddy, Vance Triplett. So I would ask that you take those things into account and note that he has tried to do the right thing by speaking with law enforcement and has tried to understand what brought him here before you today, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Steele, what do you want to tell me before I impose sentence?
Actually, is it okay if I read this?
Go ahead.
First, I want to say that I'm truly sorry to my family, the courts, my kid, and most importantly, the victims for my wrongdoings. I'm not a bad person. I just made a bad choice, which affected a lot of people. I know you, Honorable Judge O'Donnell, take your job very seriously by serving and protecting your community. I am in no way trying to defend my own actions, but simply take responsibility. I'd be wrong if I did not say I hope and pray you give me a second chance to not only be there for my son, but to show you and others who I am as a person and how pure and true my intentions are, and how much I learned from the choices that I made. Before coming to jail, I was on my way back to school to get my diploma with Graduation Alliance. It was going to complete my job course so that I could be an educated father and not another person oppressed by society and not being able to be there for my job. Not be able to be there for my kid and get a good paying job. I try so hard to be perfect for my son, but nobody's perfect. I've never been to jail before, but being in jail was a good thing. It gave me time to think and reflect on myself, the people I consider my friends, and the choices I made to get myself here. But the biggest realization is that this is not some place I would like to be. It should surely not who I am as a person or the way that I was raised. And this is very unacceptable and following for the rest of my life. Never in a million years would I have thought I would be in jail away from my family, my son, and hearing all the struggle I caused. I am a firm believer and with God anything is possible. And if given a second chance, I want you to know that I have a promising full plan of action. And again, I want the courts and the victims to know that I'm sorry and hope from the bottom of my heart that you all can accept my apology and take who I am as a person into consideration. And not just me off my past. I promise I'm not a bad person. I just made a dumb, young-minded bad choice. And believe me, got beyond scared straight. Hopefully my book is not judged by its cover, but I'm still young and can only imagine how hard life can be, how hard life can get after prison. And I want to say thank you for the opportunity of letting me speak and hear my testimony.
When did you write that?
I actually wrote this. I had it last week, but I wrote it quite a couple times, and I was trying to find the perfect words to say, but then I prayed a little bit, and nobody's perfect. There's no such thing as the perfect words to say. I can only speak from my heart and show you who I am as a person.
How long have you been in jail?
Since September 17th, Your Honor.
What have you been doing?
I have made some playful choices, but really
Some what?
Playful choices.
Playful? What do you mean playful?
I do have an in-house charge for horseplay. And
Well, you got charges for fighting.
It's horseplay and creating a disturbance, Your Honor.
Yeah, I'm kind of reading what they put you in a hole each of these times you did this, right?
I went to the hole twice, Your Honor, and one of them was possession of contraband, and the other one was horseplay and creating a disturbance.
How many times?
Twice.
What are you doing hanging around Solomon Gaston in there?
Solomon Gaston was somebody that I knew of outside before.
Knew of?
Yeah.
How did you know of him?
I knew of him from Snapchat. We was and after that we began to talk, and then I came in there, and my first night in there, he didn't recognize me who I was, and then we had quite a few conversations, and then he was there for me as a friend. My first 2 weeks in there, he gave me commissary, and then we played around, stupid young teenager stuff. But
Hanging around De Niro Logan too?
De Niro Logan was my bunkie.
Okay. So there's 4 different, 5 different, 6, 7, 8 different incidents with you in the jail. So what have you learned? You said this is the first time you've been in jail. What have you learned from being in jail? Doesn't seem like very much.
Actually, being in jail, I learned that this is not some place that I want to be. I don't want to surround myself around people who might be angry at the world or dealt a bad hand at cards and didn't know how to play them, or want to self-sabotage themselves.
Nobody gets. you, go ahead.
And bring somebody else down with them. There's been times in there where yes, I've gotten 23-hour lockdowns for I won't say petty stuff, but like clothing items, having extra clothing items, or not having my door all the way open, or not having it all the way shut. And I don't want that to affect what, like.
I mean, those may seem like petty things to you, but you placed yourself in a position where you got to follow what you consider petty rules. When you don't follow the petty rules, then there's consequences. But then you keep violating and committing the violation of the petty rules and keep getting the same result.
It wasn't. I'm not necessarily. It was. I'm like. Where like some of the COs get about it, but it's not me.
Well, you know, putting yourself in a position where you've got to conduct yourselves according to what other people perceive as you committing a violation. You put yourself in that position. You got an improper handling when you were a juvenile in 2013. What happened with that? What was that all about?
It was my best friend. My best friend was playing with a firearm, giving me a firearm because it was a split shell can. The firearm had went off and pinched my whole hand, like pinched the whole palm of my hand. Was fighting the case for a long time, and my best friend, who I still sort of kind of talk to today, she like basically forgave me and made sure that it wasn't what it looked like as it was to be.
Okay. What about this theft in Wayne County?
Theft in Wayne County made a horrible choice of. I was working. I made a horrible choice of using someone else's money to go receive products for myself.
What?
To go receive products for myself.
What products?
A vape.
Huh?
A vape.
In Wayne County?
In Wayne County.
They don't have vapes around here?
I had actually moved to Wayne County. I'm not from Lake County, sir, but I had moved to Wayne County. This was when my fiance was pregnant with my son. I moved to Wayne County to raise my kid and get away from everybody and violence and everything.
Why?
I never stopped. So actually in June I got a new number, and I was calling every day since June all the way up to August, and up to September I have been calling and leaving voicemails to Justin McGrath. And I asked for a message and asked next time he'll be in, and I still.
Okay. What happened with this incident in September of this year?
In September of this year, actually, I've never called off for work, but I called off for work because Vance had asked me to go to probation with him because I was his comfort. So I went to probation I was going to probation office with me. Like, me and Vance was like close friends. Like, at a point in time, I did consider him my brother. But he like somebody was there with him and got him. So I don't really know what he was on probation for.
Where was it?
Cleveland.
Okay. So you went. So go ahead.
As he was asking to come get me, I was like, yeah, because at the same time, what is yours? And what you gave me, and we had went back out to his house, and then got pulled over by the police.
Okay. Well, you to pal around with Vance when he went to probation.
At the time, I was already sick.
Probation with Vance?
I already called off work.
Okay, so did you go to?
Before we could get there, we were stopped by the police officers.
Pick you up at your where you live? Where you live in?
Cleveland Heights with my grandmother.
Okay, so they in Cleveland Heights, apartment in Cleveland.
In Cleveland.
And first you divert back to Willoughby.
Yes.
Where Vance had just left.
No, he had left Signature Health. I think it was Signature Health in Beechwood.
Okay, so you go back to Vance's house, and then what?
Go back to Vance's house. We go inside for a second. We go inside.
Inside.
I was getting his belongings, and I also wanted to smoke. His mom said that we could inside the house. His mom walked we had originally went out there off football paper for her youngest son.
Okay, and then what?
And then Vance had asked her house. He had changed his clothes, or changed his shoes, and I went in there and lit them out for a second. And she came in there, basically cussing us out and saying like, "Y'all doing the wrong thing. Come on, let's go." And we got in the car. And as we got
What
in the
does that
car,
mean, doing the wrong thing?
smoking instead of running no time. And got in the car and we had pulled off
Smoking what?
a mile.
Okay.
And we had got in the car, pulled off. As we pulled off, she was actually moved up, cussing both of us out. And then she was like, "I don't hear nothing y'all got to say. Just stop talking to me. Y'all aggravating and stuff." And then after all that, she was like, "The police behind me, put your seatbelts on." Put our seatbelts on, and then the police had pulled us over, grabbed Vance out the car, and then asked me if I had any questions. I told them no, and then she had asked what it's about, and then also asked the same question, and then they had asked for my name, and then it was like we have to see if the detective want to talk to you, and then after that I got detained inside the car, and they had asked for what firearms. They asked who the firearms was inside the car, and I told them that one of them belonged to me, and I got transported to Woodley Police Department.
Which one belonged to you?
None of them really belonged to me, but I took the blame for it because I touched it last, and I do watch a lot of.
Well, where did that come from?
Where did what come from?
Where did the gun come from?
From my knowledge, the gun was reported stolen, so it was.
What?
It was under the seat. It was under Vance's seat
How did you know it was there?
because they told me it was there,
Okay.
and I have all my reports and everything, and
So you didn't see anybody go in the apartment, take any guns out and put them in the car?
No,
You didn't see that?
no,
You didn't take anything out of the apartment?
I never took anything out the apartment.
Did Vance or his mother take anything out of the apartment?
Not that I was paying attention to. No,
So how many guns were in the car?
it was 2 in total inside the car.
All right. Now, how did you know it was stolen?
It was actually days prior. I think it was a Sunday night, or it was a Sunday night or Saturday night. I did look up on the ATF public website, and they said it was stolen from Willoughby.
The one that was under the seat?
The one that I had prior before.
What?
The one that I had prior before trying to return it to Vance. Yes.
Was that in the car?
Yes.
How did that get in the car?
It was in the car because I already had it on my person.
All right, when he picked you up in Cleveland Heights?
Cleveland
You
Heights,
didn't
yes.
tell me that, right? So where was that gun when the
That's-
cop stopped you?
That was the gun. I was also under the seat.
Okay, you told me there was a gun under the seat that you didn't know was there, that was already there.
No, I never
Okay.
said that.
All right. So where, you looked up that over the previous weekend
Yes.
on the ATF website.
ATF website.
How did you know to go to an ATF website?
It's like, I wouldn't say I'm dumb, but it's like, I do watch a lot of crime TV shows. I do watch a lot of like Chicago PD, 911, and I did just have the thought to look it up because something that seemed right about it.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. Now, how did it come to be that you looked up, that you knew to look up on an ATF website whether a gun was listed as stolen or not?
This
Don't
is
tell me you saw it on Chicago PD, okay?
I didn't say I saw it, but I do watch a lot of shows, and I did decide to look it up. But I didn't look up ATF.com. I looked up how to tell if a gun is stolen or not, and I searched about the serial number.
Why did you suspect that that gun was stolen?
Because something didn't seem right about it in the way it was brought
Where
to
did you get it?
Vance.
Vance gave it to you.
Yes.
That should have told you right away it was stolen, right?
Yes.
Okay. Is that the only gun you looked up on the ATF website?
Yes.
Is that the only time you've ever done that?
Yes.
Is that the only involvement you've had with guns?
No, not besides my
What
minor.
other involvement have you had with guns,
Um,
besides the juvenile offense?
Besides my juvenile offense, nothing pretty much. Besides, I have a couple of friends who died from gun violence.
The what?
Died from gun violence, and I.
And
I
what
have,
involvement have you had with guns?
That's
He's asking about your text messages.
besides buying something and trading. That was the only other involvement I had was me texting Vance.
What were you trading?
I wasn't trading nothing. It was like, it was a conversation and asking about it.
Conversation with Vance?
Yes,
And who else?
just Vance.
Talking about trading guns.
Yes. We're talking about other guns, but not trading guns and buying them, but yes.
Buying guns?
Yes.
From where?
I don't know from where.
So you and Vance are just having a conversation about buying guns, but it wasn't like you were gonna buy guns or trade guns or anything else?
Not on my end, no.
Not, but on his end?
On his end, probably. I
Okay.
can't.
Why do you admire Vance so much?
I didn't. It's
What thing has he done to advance your life, your buddy?
truth be told, he has like
Nothing. The answer is nothing.
nothing. But when I first moved to Willoughby, you know, it was a point of time where I'd go to school and everything, and he'd be at the bus stop getting his little brother, and his mom would like check up on me, make me food plates, and I'd go over there and talk to her. And then when I went to prison, I did like call to check up on him.
When did Vance go to prison?
I believe it was 2022 or 2023.
When did he get out?
I don't remember.
Okay. And you thought it was a good idea to reacquaint yourself with your buddy, who you knew was no good?
Not necessarily. I was more necessarily checking up on a person who I like felt bad for and tried to save.
What? Why are you worrying about saving Vance or anybody else? Look at you. Why are you worried about saving Vance or anybody else?
Truth be told, I don't know, Your Honor. I'm not gonna say I didn't like. In my heart, it's just I'm just a caring person. I care for some people who shouldn't.
You don't care for yourself. If you cared for yourself, you
go.
wouldn't be standing here. Okay, so don't tell me you care for other persons, okay? Why are you trying to skirt around what you did and why you did it?
I'm not trying to skirt around.
Well, you are. You're not doing a very good job of it, but that's exactly what you're trying to do, okay? What have you been doing for 122 days?
122 days. Not the whole 122 days, because sometimes I can't go to church. But I go to church. I'd attend NA meetings, AA meetings.
How old are you?
20 years old, Your Honor.
What is it you're gonna do?
As in, if given a second chance, first thing I'm gonna do is.
Well, leave me out of it, okay? You put yourself in this predicament. I didn't, okay? Question is not what I'm gonna let you do. What are you gonna do?
I'm going to get out and actually be a father to my kid, and of course go back to school and get my
You
diploma.
keep saying your kid. Is it a boy or a girl?
It's
Kid.
my
Son?
My
Your
son,
son got a name?
Kamarion.
Okay. You should probably call him by his name instead of a kid.
You're right.
So
But-
what are you gonna do?
Get out, be the best parent I can be of course for Kamarion. Go get my diploma so that I can actually get a good paying job and not be stuck in fast food.
Like
for
what?
the rest
Job
of my
or
life.
what? What kind of job?
Actually, I want to go back to my CDLs. The rest of my family has their CDLs, but if I can't succeed in that, I will go back to construction. And I do have a history of rehabbing houses, so I have no problem with being in construction. I have goals after goals.
You've been talking to Vance
I talked to Vance twice since I've been in here, yes.
twice?
Yes.
Twice?
Your Honor, I don't know how many times, but I do know that they have had communications.
Okay. When's the last time you talked to him?
Last time I talked to Vance was, it was possibly weeks ago.
Why are you talking to Vance?
Sometimes he asks how I'm doing and do I need anything.
You haven't learned too much about Vance in the last 122 days?
I have, but I don't know, I just made a stupid decision, but I still trying to communicate myself with him.
Why?
Being in here, I feel like I have nobody, and outside I have a whole lot of people who support me, but sometimes I do go without, and I don't know.
What does your dad do?
My dad is a truck driver.
How long has he been doing that?
For more than 5 years, I believe. He's also behind me as well.
I figured that. So Ms. Hibbert is asking me to put you on probation. For what? To do what? To accomplish what?
To accomplish the goals I have of being there for my son Kamarion and raising him, being as perfect father as I can be, and getting my life straight and learning from my mistakes so that this is one thing I won't have to repeat.
Okay. Did Triplet ever make it to probation that day?
No.
So you're still you're still not being straight with me on that whole day, okay? Because he asked you to go with him to the probation department.
Yes.
So he picks you up in Cleveland Heights
Yes.
and then goes the opposite way
To drop off a football
to
paper.
Willoughby.
Yes, to drop a football paper to Igion Triplet, who attends Willoughby's, like Willoughby South and Willoughby Middle School is all combined together, but I went to South, so I always say Willoughby South.
Football paper for what?
It was his physical.
The season had been underway for 6 weeks at that point. This
In
is
September?
September 18th, okay? If he had his physical done, he wouldn't have been playing the last 6 weeks.
If I could promise you, and you can look at my heart and my mind and see, it was like I was told it was the physical paper, and she had to drop it off to Igion.
So you went there, then you were going to South to drop that off?
Yes.
Okay. And
Well-
then you were gonna go to the probation department?
Yes.
And you're sick?
Yes.
Okay.
I wasn't necessarily like boo-hoo
What,
sick, but
what's your, what's your issue with drugs?
I really have no issue with drugs. It's just sometimes I do smoke, like on my free time from work. I did smoke weed, but that was the only drug that I ever really used heavy.
Okay, what did you use not heavy?
Not heavy. I didn't really use drugs not heavy. Like
Well, ecstasy, you've used that before,
I
right?
used that before, yes.
Okay, so when I ask you that question, I expect a truthful answer. Okay. So you don't have a drug problem?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. So you were just involved in this because you had some admiration for Vance?
Basically, Your Honor, yes.
What, have you ever had any mental health treatment before?
I did go to Beachbrook, and I did have the big.
What's Beachbrook?
Beachbrook is like it was a while ago, but Beachbrook is I don't know really how to describe it now because I haven't been there in a while. But I did the Big Brother Big Sister program and been to Signature Health.
Okay, but what about mental health treatment?
I did nothing but counseling and therapy
For what?
for anxiety, depression, bipolar depression, and PTSD.
And that was with Signature?
That was a Signature Health.
When's the last time you were there?
Last time I was there was I believe it was the end of 2022 or the beginning of 2023.
Okay, why'd you stop going there?
Cause I met my fiance Cassidy, and I started confiding into Cassidy, and I got closer with Cassidy, and I feel like we was unbreakable, and she was my person that I would be able to talk to and fully like relate to and have like deep conversations with. I feel like they have nobody else.
So if that support existed, why are you getting involved in nonsense like this?
Truth be told, Your Honor, I don't know.
Truth be told.
Truth be told, I don't know. It was.
Don't you think you should find out? I
Yes,
mean,
Your Honor.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell me?
Truth be told, I got myself involved with Vance because I had love for him. Like, it was a friendship that like I didn't want to take for granted, but now I know that that's not who I want to surround myself around and somebody I can't be with if you.
Well, what concerns me is you should have, course you should realize that's not somebody that you want to hang around, but you're still in contact with them. You've been in jail, you're still in contact with them.
I mean, I talked to him twice since I've been in here. I have seen him, but I never been in contact with him and said anything besides, yeah, I'm cool, or stuff along that nature.
I think he's trying to say he didn't initiate the contact.
So what? Would he forced you to talk to him, or what?
No, but it's hard to ignore somebody who you once had love for.
That's kind of a stunning statement from somebody who's been sitting in jail for 122 days, a lot of it attributed to your buddy Vance.
Yes.
That tells me things aren't likely to change.
Things can change.
I know they can. I said they're not likely to. The only way things can change is if you change them.
I will change them because I put it on the scales and realize, like, together, I don't want to be a jailbird or a criminal bird. I want to be a free bird and be able to be with everything I can be to my greatest possibility.
Similar, have a seat.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state submitted a sentencing memorandum for the court's consideration. Sentencing is not confined to the four corners of the indictment or the pre-sentence report. The court is required to look deeper, to look at who the defendant actually is, how he's conducted himself over time, and what risk he poses moving forward. The court must evaluate not just what happened in this case, but whether his conduct is part of a broader pattern of behavior. The court is not limited to evaluating a single snapshot in time. The court must assess patterns of behavior, the likelihood of recidivism, and whether the defendant has demonstrated genuine accountability. When the court does that in this case, the picture is deeply troubling. What emerges when the court looks beyond the indictment and beyond the sanitized version of facts and circumstances of this case that the defendant has provided, the defendant is a person who's repeatedly engaged in criminal conduct, who has demonstrated an ongoing inability or maybe an unwillingness to conform his conduct to the law, and who continues to minimize his behavior rather than accept responsibility for it. The defense asked the court to focus narrowly on the offenses for which the defendant was convicted in isolation and without meaningful consideration of his conduct. This is not a defendant who made a single poor decision on September 17th, 2025 of improperly handling a firearm that was stolen in a motor vehicle. As set forth in the state's sentencing memorandum, the state is asking the court to look at the defendant through his own words and through his own conduct. The defendant's use of the alias Glock, the defendant's jail calls, the defendant's text messages with Vance Triplett, the defendant's
Why is your
statements-
alias Glock?
My favorite rapper at a point in time was Key Glock.
Who?
Key Glock.
Okay. Do you see the irony here that your alias is Glock and you're sitting here on gun charges? Do you
Yes,
see
Your Honor.
that?
Yes.
Okay, maybe you ought to change your alias. Maybe you ought to just use your name and stop with the alias bullshit, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Because you're 20 years old, you're not 14 years old. Go ahead, Ms. Emmeline.
Thank you, Your Honor. It is the defendant's words, his conduct, his prior juvenile adjudication for a weapons offense that establishes his unlawful pattern of buying, selling, and trading firearms. Firearms he's not even legally old enough to possess. The defendant traded a firearm to Vance Triplett, and he received that stolen Glock 43X in return, which is the basis for the charges in this case. The firearm that the defendant gave to Triplett was provided to a juvenile who used it in a murder. The state is not asking the court to hold the defendant criminally responsible for that murder, nor to enhance his sentence based on that crime. Rather, the state submits that this fact is relevant to evaluating the gravity of the risk that created by defendant's conduct and the danger that he poses if allowed to continue similar behavior. The defendant's conduct created an actual and concrete public safety risk, not a hypothetical one. The court is not being asked to assume what could happen, but look at what did happen when the defendant unlawfully traded a firearm to his friend and what that firearm was later used to do. When this defendant's conduct is viewed in its totality, a prison sentence is warranted. The harm caused here is not theoretical, and the risk the defendant poses is not merely speculative. The defendant's poor behavior shows a pattern of choices that places others at risk and demonstrates that lesser sanctions that have been attempted in the past have not been sufficient to deter him from criminal conduct. A sentence that fails to account for his role in enabling lethal violence would demean the seriousness of his conduct, undermine the purposes of felony sentencing, and fail to protect the community. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, I've reviewed the pre-sentence report, the psychological evaluation, the state's memorandum. I've listened to Mr. Steele. I've listened to counsel. I have considered all the provisions in 29, 29, 11, 29, 29, 12, and 29, 29, 13. It's important for you, Mr. Steele, whatever happens to you, to get yourself acquainted with the truth and quit trying to soft sell everything. Okay, because it's apparent to me that you stand here spouting a lot of half-truths and trying to evade what actually happened. You know, no, we're not all stupid, okay? We're all not as stupid as you think we are. So you maybe ought to consider that for your future, because you're 20 right now. You're 20, you've got a felony as a juvenile, and now you've got a felony as an adult. Why don't you have a driver's license?
I got pulled over twice with no insurance, but the day I was pending for my insurance to come through, it didn't go through, and I got pulled over. It was with possession and illegal tent, and I was in here the day I had to pay for an SR22 bond to get my license.
Okay. So you have, when did you get a license?
I got a license last year. No, not that. It's 2026. I got a license at the end of 2023, beginning of 2024 in February.
I'm looking at, Dave, I'm looking at these traffic offenses, 2 from June of 25, a tent and a failure to yield right away, but it said he's been suspended 3 times. You've been suspended 3 separate times?
No, this is my first time getting my license suspended.
Okay, and you got a suspension because you didn't have insurance when you got the failure to yield right away?
Yes, but I did have my my Ohio ID suspended.
All right, hold on.
So 2 times he was cited for traffic violations. He didn't have insurance, and there's also a license forfeiture through our municipal court.
Okay.
Money owed.
Okay. All right. Now, these are 2 felonies of the 4th degree, and the reason that you're getting the recommendation from the state of a prison sentence is because all the other stuff swirling around here and your activities with regard to those weapons. Okay? And that's a fair recommendation because of your activity. Because somehow, instead of conducting yourself as an adult Like, say, your father who goes to work and drives a truck, you decide you want to be like Vance Triplett, who spends time in prison. Well, shake your head no, but that's why you're sitting here, because you decided to follow that example. Now, in consideration of everything, I'm going to place you on community control for 5 years. And I guess I'll find out if I'm right or Ms. Himmeline was right. You're going to serve 180 days in jail with credit for 122. The last 30 days, you're going to enter into and complete the jail treatment program and follow all the recommendations. After you complete the jail treatment program, you're going to enter into the NeoCap program, complete that, and follow all those recommendations. You're to have no drugs or alcohol, and you'll be screened. You're going to get a mental health evaluation. You're going to follow those recommendations. You're going to obtain and maintain full employment. You're going to get a valid driver's license. You're going to have no contact with Triplett or Fitch. No contact with Triplett or Fitch. And you're going to pay the costs and supervision fees. Mr. Tompkins, any other terms you think are applicable?
Judge, just to clarify, who's Fitch?
Fitch is Triplett's mother, the one who was in the car with him. Right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
I don't believe there's any other.
And all the terms?
Yes, Your Honor.
Judge, sorry.
Yeah.
GED, high school diploma?
Yeah, get your GED or diploma. You expressed an interest in wanting to do that anyway, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
So it should be a breeze. You understand all the terms?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have any question about any of the terms?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, if you don't comply with the terms, then the state will file a motion to terminate your community control. And if I find you violated, then I'll discover that Ms. Himmeline was correct, and I'll send you to prison for 36 months. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
The remaining, were those dismissed before we started?
Your Honor, those were already dismissed.
Okay. Anything else, Ms. Himmeline?
No, Your Honor.
Anything else, Ms. Hibbard?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. So I've done what I've done, and just so you're aware, what I've done has no consequence on whether there's nothing that indicates what I have done is going to impact you one way or do. Okay. So it's inconsequential what I do. It's very consequential what you do. Adjourn.
All rise.
Yes.
So, yeah, so you'll be in the 58 days, okay, last 38 days, you'll be doing